Hello and welcome to episode 93 of When the Flames Go Up, the TFC podcast. We are fresh off an opening day win at Boston. What a day. And we move on to talk about the prospect of potentially winning at home for the first time since February. All those months ago, a 3-1 win against Scunthorpe. So we've all forgotten how it feels to watch our team win at home. So here's hoping. So yeah, it's pretty standard episode, this one. Julian's got some little bits that he introduces at the beginning, so you'll hear lots of different insight from Boston fans and Boston media people, as well as Scott Davis. So look forward to that. And that's it. Stay cool in the heat wave. Bring on Hartlepool, and as always, up the shots. So the shots start off the Scotty Davis era with a win away at Boston, a 1-0 win. John Gilbert, one of 14, I believe, maybe no, 15 debutants to make their first appearance for the Shots. Tristan Abraham's the only player that previously played for the Shots, coming on in the second half. It's the first opening day win for Older Shots away since a 2-0 victory over Halifax in 2017. Quick quiz: who scored the goals that day?
Don't know. Can't think.
Scott Rendell scored the first, and then from the penalty spot,
You've got me.
James Rowe. Don't know why he stepped up for a penalty, but I can't remember him ever taking another penalty for Aldershot, but there it was. We've got plenty to discuss. Obviously, the goal, which is probably going to go down, well, hopefully it doesn't get forgotten as goal of the season, because it's one of the best goals you'll see from an Aldershot perspective. A clean sheet, Nick Hayes and his merry back four getting that clean sheet. So yeah, we'll start with you, Julian. Your thoughts on that performance on Saturday and your perspective on it. And I believe you were speaking to some other people on Saturday as well.
Yeah, thanks, Will. So I had the privilege of doing the co-commentary alongside Rob for the game, and was able to get there quite early. So what I wanted to do was to just get a feel for what Boston were thinking about the day as well. I think if you remember last week, I said that I love the first game of the season. For me, it's so exciting, and I just was really interested to know how Boston were feeling about it. Would they be looking at it as an easy home win, or would they be looking at it as they've made quite a few changes as well to their team. So I got there nice and early. Managed to chat to a couple of the Boston people. So I spoke to, firstly, a guy called Darren, who is a supporter with Boston. He's followed them for a few years. And I had a chat with Darren, and this is what he had to say.
Hi, so I'm with Darren this afternoon, Boston United supporter. Darren, it'd be really good just to hear your thoughts on Boston United, perhaps their chances this season, what you know about the team, and perhaps what you think the score is going to be today.
Okay, yeah. Hello there, Julian. Obviously, with this type of football, there's a real swift turnaround of players. So I believe we've got up to about 15 new players.
Wow, okay.
We've kept some from last season. We've managed to get back some from last season as well, back on a permanent deal now rather than just loan. As to today's game, obviously it would be nice to get a win to kick off. How they're going to go, it's been a up and down friendly sort of season so far. Hopefully they will get it together today. And as for the season, we finished on a high last year, finished in the top half of the season. Around Christmas time it wasn't looking too good. We were towards the bottom four, but we changed managers and Paul Hurst swung it around and we had a very good finish. So hopefully we might, touch wood, be able to get towards the playoffs this season.
Yeah, when we came here last year, we managed to come away with a victory, and I remember at the time Graham Coughlin was under a lot of pressure, but Paul Hurst seems to have turned it around and definitely moving upwards rather than downwards.
Yes, I mean you could tell straight away when he first came in that he'd got the players' respect. Graham had done a good job to start with, and then for whatever reasons it started to go south, which was a shame. Paul's come in, he's got his players to play how he wanted, and you could see how we had a very good run of away wins, going to some of the top teams and beating them on their own soil, which was fantastic. and we managed to get some wins at home. And I think we had a good run of about 10 games without defeat. It was a very good run, which really obviously helped us. And if you look at the final table of how it finished last season, he swung it around. If they hadn't have changed managers, we might not be standing here having this conversation today.
That's very true. What do you know about Aldershot? What do you think is going to happen today?
Again, I don't know how many players you've had come and go over.
21.
Oh, okay. Quite a lot, isn't
Yeah.
it? You know, if the squad is 22, that's quite a lot. Again, you'll probably be looking the same sort of thing as us. Try and get a good start.
Yeah.
It's probably more difficult maybe away from home than being at home, but then looking at it from the other point of view, being away, you're under less pressure than we are.
Yeah, absolutely would agree with that. I think it's a good time for us to play you guys, and I think personally the result could go all different directions.
It could, yeah. I mean, we've tried to have some scores in the predictions in the car coming here, the five of us, and a couple have gone for a win, some have gone for draws. So no one said defeat yet. So
okay, well, thanks so much for your time, Darren, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Jim.
Cheers.
So that was Darren's point of view, and again, really interesting to listen to what he was saying. He was, without repeating it, he was a little bit apprehensive, and very interesting to get another perspective on Aldershot and how they see the division going and everything like that. So after Darren, I made my way into the media box and was lucky enough to catch Christian's eye. Christian is the media manager for Boston. He does all things Boston, and he's the stadium announcer. He's sort of almost brought the club through with the new stadium. Really interesting guy. And again, I just managed to get a few minutes with Christian to hear firstly what he does in a Boston situation, but also interesting to hear what his thoughts were for not only Boston's season, but also the game ahead. And he gives us a prediction, which you can listen to now.
So I'm with Christian, who by all accounts is the main man at Boston. He makes everything tick over here. Christian, really nice to meet you. Could you give the Aldershot listeners a bit of an idea as to sort of what goes on at Boston United?
Yeah, a lot, to be honest with you. I know it's the direction a lot of clubs are going in at the moment, the sense of trying to bring the community in. Clearly we've got a facility that lets us do that with the new community stadium. We've always had a real good community programme. I remember when I was at primary school, it was Boston United coaches that would come out and do a lot of sessions, and that's what brought me in. And the club have always known that it's got quite a wide reach, but maybe quite a shallow fan base within those people, if that makes sense. So the opportunity to bring a sports hall that is on our right hand side as we look now, almost finished. The 3G pitch brings all of our junior teams here. It's been really about trying to get that wider Boston United family all on the same site, feel like they belong. The new stadium's done that. A lot of the good work that the community staff do has done that as well. So very much community oriented. We've got a great supporters association that do a lot for bringing kids and families in as well. So it's been a transformative few years really, but the stadium was seen as a real opportunity to try and get new people in. The gates show we've done that, and it feels like a real family club now, whereas before, and it's not to criticise anyone that was there because those people were really important and it's good they're still here, it was very much kind of the same old faces every week, quite an older crowd, quite a male crowd as well. That's great, and we're really pleased those people are still here and still come and watch us here, but there's an opportunity to expand on that, and I think we've done that quite successfully.
It's a blueprint, I think, for what Aldershot could be doing themselves. It's a fantastic stadium for those that haven't been here before. Just moving on to sort of pre-season and the season ahead. It sounds like Boston are in a similar position to Aldershot in that there's been quite a high turnover of players. What do you see and what do you predict is going to happen this season?
It's strange because we finished the season with 7 points that just rocketed us up from 16th to 12th. It's like, well, clearly we were 12th best in the National League last year, but is that really a benchmark to go? We now need to vastly improve on that this season. I think what would be key for Boston this year is if we spend the season looking up and hoping rather than looking down and fearing. The last 2 years, well, the Great Escape 2 years ago clearly was about staying in the league. Last year we were still concerned with staying in the league. This year it'd be nice to have that, or could we just, are we within touching distance? Even if it doesn't happen this year, So strangely, I think we could take a backward step. Say we finish 13th but 6 points off the playoffs, that would be a vast improvement, but the league position might go backwards. I think we've got one of the best managers in the National League in Paul Hurst. Really pleased when we got him in. His first summer, first chance to do as much as he could with the squad. He's clearly made a lot of changes. We've lost a couple of key players we wanted to keep, but who doesn't? Probably a sign of success last year that we have those players to move on. Tom Curzon's on the long-term deal is really, really important, and hopefully a couple of the other names that we see play for the first time in competitive football today might be in that position this time next year.
And just finally, Christian, what do you think this score is going to be today? What's your prediction?
Well, I think Boston have been solid but struggled to create a little bit. It sounds as though Aldershot have been fairly similar, so I think 1 or 2-0 either way. I'd like to think we get off to a good start, but we tended to struggle to do that here, so I'll tentatively say 1-0 Boston, but I don't think it's going to be the first game on Match of the Day tonight.
So that's from the Boston perspective, and I think it's always good to hear it from an Aldershot perspective as well. We obviously do our bit each week, and you hear our views, and often they're similar, sometimes they're different. But I also managed to spend a bit of time with our new media guy, Luke, and I was really grateful for Luke to give me some time, because he's really busy on match days. He's busy throughout the week as well, actually. He's the guy that produces everything social media wise. So every bit of clip you see is done by Luke. And I managed to grab him for a quick chat as well. And Luke, who's now coming up, will give us his perspective on what's happened pre-season, and also a little bit of insight into some of those player interactions that he's had too.
So I'm with Luke, the media lead for the Shots, and Luke, it'd be really good just to hear about your role, what you get up to, and anything that would be of interest.
Yeah, hello mate. If you are listening and you also listen to interviews, you're probably getting really overly familiar with this voice rambling on. But yeah, I'm sort of working with Michael, the marketing lead. Took over from Sam, if you used to know him. But yeah, basically any of the nonsense that you see going up on the social media is just me trying to give it a little bit of pizzazz. But really enjoying it. There's a lot of travel, obviously, and I don't live in Aldershot, but nobody's forcing me to do it. I wouldn't do it if I love it, and it genuinely is a great club.
Great, and it's not just match days, is it? It's not just match days. You're at the training ground, doing various other things.
Yeah. So we're still working out. I should say I started as an intern with Sam a couple of years ago. I did Wembley. I was in the press box. I managed to be the person who pushed send on that Champions graphic. I didn't make the graphic, I must say, but that was early days.
Take the credit.
But yeah. So been here a little while, and it's just slowly, more by familiarity, I think, and just getting to know the role. It's going to the training ground, in the office with Mark and Michael, doing the commercial stuff. A little bit all-encompassing, but it's I'm learning very, very quickly what this club is all about from bottom to top. So I must say, everyone's repeating it. It is such a good group of players and such a good group of staff at the moment. The positivity that's shining through for the fans is really there on the inside.
And that's what I was going to ask you, actually, is you've obviously spent a bit of time with the players during pre-season, whereas obviously the supporters and most other people haven't. So the message I'm getting across is this energy, this togetherness. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's I can only really speak from my point of view, but you sort of, the first couple of weeks, you sort of are feeling the group out. Do they like being on camera? Do they like even just talking to people who are not other footballers? But these guys are just class on a personal level, and being someone who's sort of watching a bit of training. I'm no coach, but they look bloody good as well.
Because Terry Brown mentioned it, didn't he, in one of the interviews, I think, about the fact that this seems to be the fittest team he's ever seen. And I guess that can only be a good thing. But just going back to your role as an interviewer, if you like, I guess you need to have different types of skills depending on who's in front of the camera.
Yeah, absolutely. So earlier this week we had Charlie Clapham on, the sort of under 18s coach, and we work a lot with Mark and stuff. And I'm looking to do more interviews with the more peripheral staff. It's a football club, isn't it? It's not a first men's team. It's women's academy and all like that. There's so many people who work here, and I don't say that as a bereft person. I just mean it's brilliant. There are, including yourself and the guys that you pop with, inside and out, so many people involved with this football club, and it's the fifth tier of English football. How good is this country?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just want to say thank you so much for everything that you do. That I know a lot of the supporters, all the supporters, really appreciate all the updates that you give. So
I do appreciate that. And again, obviously I am new to being a little bit full time with this football club. So contact me however you like. If there's something I'm doing and you're like, that's a bit pants, do contact me. I've got thick skin, but hopefully you like what I'm putting out generally.
So after I've spoken to those, we got down to the match, and what a match. What a match. It produced everything I'd hoped for and more as well. We weren't sure on the pod last week. We were not sure what we were going to get. And I was desperately hoping that the team would click and that they wouldn't freeze in the moment. And be interesting to get your thoughts on this, the rest of the panel. But I thought for the first 15, 20 minutes, we had a bit of an inferiority complex. It felt to me as if that all the 11 debutants were still not sure if they were meant to be there. And I think that grew from 20 minutes onwards. It started to grow, and they started to believe, and they started to see little shoots of positiveness. And from that sort of 20 minutes onwards, I really felt we were in a really good position. And again, the other thing that really pleased me was the partnerships that were developing really quickly too. The other guys on the panel will notice this as well. But for me, that midfield two of Bornice and, just pronounce his name right, Odesanya, those two I thought were absolutely superb. They went about their business. If you notice, for the whole match, they were never more than sort of 10 yards apart. And talking to the Boston media team after the game, they were so impressed with our two midfield, and they were saying they just ran the show. And they had no answer to it. And I think that then developed all over the pitch. There were little partnerships all over the pitch, which looked as if they'd been there for years. Down the right-hand side with Ifete and Tuma, down the left-hand side with Adam Malaki and Sanya, the two centre-backs. We talked about those last week as well, and with Stickland in there, I thought, again, he was absolutely superb. And just the whole thing was just couldn't have gone any better in my eyes. And I cannot wait to see what happens over the course of the season. Yes, we're going to lose games. That's obvious. And yes, there's going to be a bit of inexperience. But Scotty was asking for patience from the supporters. And I did get an opportunity to speak to Scotty after the game, which I'm sure we'll be able to find a bit of time for that too. And he talks about the supporters asking the supporters for a bit of patience, because his belief in this team and my belief in this team from seeing Saturday, that there is so much potential there, and who knows where we end up. I predicted 17th, and that could still be the case. But that win on Saturday for me was one of the best victories that I've experienced away from home. And as you said at the start, the goal for me was just absolute class from start to finish. It really was.
Hi guys, I'm with our glorious manager Scotty Davis today, overseeing that amazing victory with Boston. Scotty, can you just give us a little assessment of how you saw the day?
Yeah, I think for me it's just immense pride. Obviously proud of the players, proud of the management team, proud of the supporters. I thought we did it together. I thought the the lads were absolutely superb in terms of what they gave themselves, me, the football club, the supporters. Like I've said before on many different times, I think they're probably the best pound-for-pound supporters that I've ever played in front of. So to now manage in front of them and get a win in my first game away from home is extra special. Selfishly, that means the world to me, but I know it means just as much to the players. So I think we've grown in maybe confidence and belief. We've got a result that not many people fancied us to get, but we've got a young group that need to prove themselves, right? So hopefully over time they'll be able to do that. Today they did it, but we need to make sure that we can carry that on next week at home to Hartlepool, which isn't going to be easy. So no, for me, extremely proud to manage this football club. Like you say, is a privilege, and I want more of these moments, more often than not. So yeah, listen, we need to roll into next Saturday now with a load of confidence behind us, and hopefully a spring in our step.
Well, I was going to say, through the podcast, a lot of the supporters listen, not only within the UK but from all around the world. What would be your message to them for what they need to be doing for the rest of the season?
Yeah, we can't get carried away today. We've won 3 points out of a possible 46 games. So yeah, we've not achieved or conquered anything, but we're 3 points closer to safety on the first day of the season. That's the way I'm seeing it. I talk about it every year. Want to get to 50 points as quickly as we can, and see where we can go from there, right? So I think they need to be patient. We're going to have days where it's not going to go our way. We're going to have days where we maybe do lack a little bit of experience. But football fans, I'm one of them, right? So I know what they want to see. They want to see hard work. They want to see people show a bit of quality. They want to see people play for the badge. Like I said before, we're custodians of this football club. People support Aldershot, pretty much from Aldershot. They don't support Man United. So to represent their town, I'll make sure every single week that the lads know the importance of that. And I think they showed that today.
Scotty, on behalf of the supporters who listen to the podcast and from all over the world, and the ones that were here and the ones that are back home listening, thank you so much for today. It's been an amazing day. Look forward to some more of them.
Yeah, and thank you for your efforts as well. Obviously, driving up from Swansea, absolutely incredible.
Cheers, mate.
Great stuff. Yes. Yeah, plenty to touch on. Yeah, the midfield too is probably the one thing that I've not seen too many comments about. But yeah, watching it in person, and especially after the kind of last couple of years that we've had with our midfield, and feeling as though it's a bit either flimsy or it does one thing but not the other. I could see pretty much exactly what Bognis and Odesanya were there to do, and they did their job really well. So yeah, I'm excited to see more of them two together. Odesanya was barely put a foot wrong. I thought he was superb. So yeah, very very promising. Guy, I'll come to you next. Your thoughts on Boston away at the weekend?
Yeah, thanks, Will. So, I mean, obviously, being a stray shot, I had to watch it, on DAZN, and even though, and the guys will know that I tend to mute you, so I don't actually hear anything from you guys on WhatsApp. So I come to it fresh. A little bit frustrating. I know I see on ShotsWeb that other people had the same experience, that the feed cut out 10 minutes before the end, and so as a result, I didn't get to see the final substitutions that were made. There were ones, I think there were two made after 77 minutes, and then of course the last, with a minute or so to go. So I didn't get to see any of those what those players were able to bring to the table, as well as Rooney's second yellow and sending off. And I believe there was also a save that Nick Hayes had to make in the final minute as well. So missed all of that, but I feel. That said, I got a fairly good sense of how things turned out. I think Julian has summarised quite some of the things that I was going to bring out. So I guess really for me, the main points that I wanted to just draw on, what stood out for me as well, particularly was the physicality of the team as well. I was struck particularly by the back four. That once they got their act together after that 20 minutes or so, they were very, very firm. They did stand up well, and I got the sense that sometimes Boston players were bouncing off them, which is encouraging. There's strength there. We're not pushovers. I've talked about it all last season. How we tended to leak at the back, and it was great to actually see a clean sheet for the first time in ages. And actually, look at that. Think about that score, 1-0. Last year we were known as the very high scorers, but also very high leakers. An Aldershot game was guaranteed to see lots of goals. It was very striking that here it was just the one goal. And thinking about that as we go forward, if that's actually what it's going to take, I am more than happy to be going for the 1-0s and the 2-1s. I'm more than happy with us to do that. As I said, the defensive performance was very good. It didn't. I mean, obviously, players like Tuma with his running and his passing, and obviously Gilbert's goal and positioning, that was fantastic, and obviously stood out as well as Adam Maliki. That chance he had, really, he should have put away. But there was obviously a lot of stuff going on at the back, which was just solid, and it didn't stand out perhaps in the same kind of way, and that's great. That's great to see. I guess my one concern would be that physicality. How's that going to play for us over a 46 game season? Are we going to be able to maintain that level of intensity and physical robustness? I'm sure we're going to end up having injuries as the season goes on, and that obviously raises questions as to do we have sufficient cover? I mean, that team that we saw put out, for everybody involved, because it was 11 debutants on the pitch. None of us had any idea, except for those who've obviously been through a few of the pre-season games, what that was actually going to look like. For me, it was a new look. And so is that the starting 11? Do we have those players coming in that could easily cover for those players that may find themselves getting injured as the season progresses? I guess we'll see. But it is something that just is sort of sitting there at the back of my mind, because in about 2 months' time, when we start to see those injuries pick up, what is Plan B? But other than that, very pleased, very happy with what we did, and I'm sure we'll also talk about what that means going forwards to Hartlepool.
Great stuff. Yeah, I did think at the weekend as well, when Gilbert went over to the right and Frimpong came into that attacking midfield, I was a bit like, okay, it's good. I'm glad there's someone else that can maybe do that role, or is maybe going to be, able to go into that role. Because when I was looking through the squad, I was like, there's not really any cover for Gilbert. It just in that specific role. I mean, the last 2 years or even 3 years, we've had so many attacking midfielders that can sit in there. I suppose we've also got Toby Nelson that can maybe come in there as well. That's not to suggest that Gilbert's going to get injured, but someone else might, and you definitely want Gilbert in that starting 11 somewhere, and he can definitely fill in on that right hand side. Just finding so much space and so much joy throughout most of that game. CJ, over to you next. Your thoughts from New Zealand?
Yeah, I think it was really positive. As the start goes, 1-0 away, you take every day of the week. I think the guys covered it really well. I think the midfield too were excellent. Gilbert in front of them was like what we expected. Really, he was top class, and he obviously done it in pre-season, popped up with goals, and he proved to be the right man in the right place on the weekend. If anything, I'm more disappointed by the fact that we could have probably scored 2 or 3 more. I think you look at Adam Maliki's goal, and I think Dananga had a chance at one point, and then we had a couple of headers in the box. So you look at it overall, and you probably come away and go, oh, it could have been 2 or 3 more. I think obviously Nick Hayes' save at the end was very good as well. Having watched the highlights, because I had a similar issue to Guy. Obviously, it was definitely a red card. But yeah, I think the thing that most impressed me was the fact that the lads didn't stop. There was a moment where Adam Maliki picks the ball up at the last few minutes, and he's in the corner just holding it up, and he was still going until the end. And then there was he was making overlapping runs in the 80 odd minutes and stuff like that still. And I think that to me shows it's the excitable moment of the team where they're all obviously fresh coming in, and they're energetic, and they're trying to make a mark and still trying to fight for their spot. But I think it's also how Scotty Davis wants to play, and I think it's really exciting. I think you look at the balance of the team. We had the experience of Michael Affetti at right back, Nick Hayes in goal. Kiki and Michael obviously led very well from centre half, and then obviously Odesanya, you could see, was sort of pulling strings in the middle and running with experience. And then Marcus Denanga, I think, was just a class above, really, in terms of his hold-up play, his link-up. He was strong, he was athletic, he was getting round, and he was everything we sort of hoped it would be from the initial signing. Obviously, disappointed he didn't come away with a goal, but his assist was second class, really, in terms of the movement off it. But like, we haven't really spoke about it. The actual build up play to the goal was unbelievable in terms of like it's gone near enough from right wing to left back, and then all the way up the line, flicked on by Sander into Tuma. Tuma's a right winger, by the way, on the left hand side. So the fluidity of the attack in that sense, to then play that ball, that reverse pass into Denanga to cut back across 6 yards, and then Gilbert pops up on the right wing. So that fluidity of that front four almost was unbelievable, and it was all 1-2 touch, which was so nice to see, and we hadn't really had that before. And I think the excitement part of it is that front four caused absolute bother to them all game, including Adam Malicki getting forward as well. So like you're almost attacking with 5-6 players, where in a very different shape to what we've normally had. So in previous years, we've always had that free with Tommy, and then we had bodies just everywhere on the pitch going forwards, where we had a real nice balance across the game. We never looked out of shape. We never looked disorganized. It was really nice to see. I think if you look at the first like 15 minutes, obviously there was that little bit of like back and forth, and it was a bit erratic, and then the minute it calmed down, and then we just looked the better team from the offset. And then you listen to like the commentators for them at Boston, and they were just so one-sided in the second half. They were like, this is all Aldershot. Obviously, like the Nick Hay save at the end was probably the one shining light they had, really. But it was a good save, but it wasn't really tested throughout. And I think that's a credit to the guys in front of him more than anything, to just keep Boston so nullified. And we were so in control, especially that last half an hour. I thought we were going to get a couple more.
Yeah, definitely thought we could have scored more. We had plenty of half chances, plenty of openings. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Nino down the left. My God, that player! Not only was he wanted to overlap all the time past Sander, but then he got his chance later in the game to just be a left winger, and that's when he does that thing. He's in the corner, escapes, takes it round a man, like lays it off. I mean, yeah, I was so impressed by him. And yeah, he just did not stop running. He was brilliant. The other one I was going to mention, yeah, you mentioned Denanga, but it just looked so Harry Kane. That the touch and pass that he does in the first half from I think it's a goal kick or a free kick, it brings down and just on the swivel plays the ball out to Sander. That was unbelievable. And then the ball through to him for the goal. I think I think most strikers would think, oh, I'll just bang this on my left. I'll just give it a go. Defender thinks he's doing that because it's Marcus Denanga and he could probably score from there. The defender just completely gets sold because he takes a touch and drills it across the goal. So I thought that was my favourite part of it. I think he's so good, and because he says he's our definite staying central part of that front four. Those three behind him can do what they want. Because Gilbert was a centre attacking mid, sure, but in the first half, he was basically on the left, just working with Sander, doing all that. You were like, is the ball going to get to Toomer at any point? You know, and when it did get there, like he had each had the one-on-one, but Sander and Gilbert were creating this weird havoc on the left-hand side. And yeah, I'm not sure how we didn't win by more, but yeah, such as life in this league, that it can come down to a couple of big saves from Hayes to make sure we won it. Yeah, I was going to mention the final whistle and the ovation that the players got at the end of that game, because it really was heartwarming. It was really nice. You know, I think especially the players. You know, final whistle goes, and a few of them are like down on their haunches. Like they've put in a real big 90-minute effort there. And then they drag themselves up, and then they all come over to come away to the fans. And I'm just basically watching Scotty Davis see what he's doing. You know, he's giving it a few fist bumps, and then he's coming along some of the fans, and then some of the players start moving away from the fans, and he's like, no, go down there, do a full lap. He basically pushes them all down to do like, you know, shake hands and high fives, all these like all the kids and stuff. And then the seating area is like opposite side. So there's a few over there. All the players go over that way as well. It's just that little thing that I think, not to say it was missing before, but I think it was sporadic before. Whereas now I think it is going to be a collective, and that's going to be so important. That the way that this league is, there's loads of top teams that are probably going to get one over on us across the season. But if we can come away saying we put in that effort, we might, we've got some quality players that can do magical things. Like we are going to get some great results, I think, this season. So yeah, it's just good to see everyone get on board from minute one. The first game of the season, that's like the perfect start for Scott Davis. Let's move on to the Hartlepool game, I suppose. We've actually only got 10 minutes left on this record. Not sure how that's happened. Yes, it's Hartlepool at home, first home game of the season. Lee Clark is at the wheel at Hartlepool, who joined in July. They started with a 2-0 win over Barrow at the weekend. Will Harris and Jack Nolan got the goals. They're generally, I think, pre-season second favourites to win the league because of, I think, the US takeover they had and all the players that they bought over the summer, which are National League standard and above, you'd probably say. Will Harris, as I mentioned before, he scored 3 goals against us last season when he was at Halifax. Jack Nolan, who, as well as Chris Popov, were at Morecambe last season. Jack Nolan got 19 goals last season in a dreadful team, so that's a very good signing. Chris Popov scored 7 shots, players, and crossovers. Charlie Penman was signed by Hartlepool on a permanent. He made 8 appearances for Aldershot last season. And Nick Hayes was at Hartlepool last season, and he's now with Aldershot. So those are that's a broad brushstroke of some of the things to expect from Hartlepool. Julian, I'll come to you first. Your thoughts ahead of the first home game of the season?
Yeah, again, really excited for this one. I think Hartlepool are going to be the real deal this season. Yeah, Hartlepool have been strong in defence, and would normally ground out 1-0s and perhaps 2-0s. So they've never been a team for me that have really sort of flooded forward and scored 4s or 5s, but always had a really good defence. But what they've done this season is they have added to their attack. So not only are they strong in defence, they have got a really interesting, exciting attack now with, as you said, Will Harris and particularly Jack Nolan, who both scored in the opening game of the season. So for me, they are going to be the real deal. And it's, with no disrespect to Boston, it's going to be a whole new different game, this one. And I'm so glad we beat Boston, because the confidence we're going to get from that will take us into the Hartlepool game. And so the other thing to remember is that Hartlepool will have sort of taken a step back after seeing our result as well. So they're going to be a little bit on the back foot by seeing how fluid and how energetic and how strong the shots were at the weekend. But for me, Hartlepool are the ones that we need to measure ourselves against. And I think certainly from a possession sense, we're going to need to have all the ability that we had on Saturday, keep the ball, no sloppy passes, get the wingers, get your Sanders and your Tumors. Perhaps even Brody Pert will appear as well. I think he'll be probably on the bench. I think that's going to be the key again, is to get the ball out wide and get Hartlepool thinking. So if you sort of drag a prediction out to me, I think it's going to be a draw. I think we will get something out of the game as long as we can keep Harris and Nolan quiet.
Yes, I think that's going to be the key. Yeah, Will Harris. Yeah, obviously had yeah, the 3 goals last season against us. I think they only won one of those games. I think we turned around the other one against Halifax. But yes, I remember saying, I think on this pod last year about Will Harris, just don't give him those half chances. And he had, I think he had 2 half chances in about 10 minutes against us at home and scored them both. So yeah, I'm actually not going to be there on Saturday. It's still cricket season. I'm sorry. But I'm very annoyed because obviously going up to Boston and thinking about the first home game of the season, I'm like, oh, what a sight that'd be, especially in the sunshine, the wreck. I mean, the only green patch of land in Hampshire. So I'm going to be quite sad come 2:30 on Saturday, I'm sure. Guy, I'll come to you next. How are you feeling ahead of Hartlepool at the weekend?
Well, I'm pretty excited, and unlike you, I plan to be there since I happen to be in the UK this week. So, I mean, as I think I mentioned this last week, that of all, you asked us about which games were we looking forward to, and for me, it's just the games that I get to go to when I'm back in the country, and I'm just very pleased that it happens to be against one of the promotion contenders, which, as Julian has pointed out, they have I mean, he's saying that we should probably go for a draw. But I think looking at the odds, that is today on Monday. The odds for both a draw and an Aldershot win are about the same. So I'm inclined to an Aldershot win, but that's simply for being optimistic. Now, in terms of who I think, what do I think we should be doing? I think Julian's pretty much well summed it up. I would just like to see more of the same from what we had last weekend. So it would be fantastic to put out the same starting 11 because, as I've pointed out, the problem with the 46 game season is, there is so much attrition. You end up losing players because of injuries, because of suspensions. So now is the time in, sort of early season, when we've still got when the players are still relatively fresh, to make hay and to get the same players out, get those understandings working, get the sort of a settled pattern of play that is understood, that if a player has to switch out, at least when a new player comes in, they know exactly what they're doing because they've got those because the other players around them will already have been playing that way. So for me, put the same 11 in. In terms of, what I'd like to see, hopefully it's also going to be a well-attended game. We've obviously got the heat wave going on at the moment, so it should be very attractive to be outside. I was a little bit surprised to see in preparing for today's podcast that according to Transfer Market, our average attendance last year, despite the drudgery that we had to watch, was up at around nearly 3,500. Which was an increase over the previous season. I'm surprised by that, but do I think we're going to bring in 3,400 at this Saturday? Unlikely, given that we're still in the middle of the summer holidays. But I'll be happy with something that's north of 2,000, 2,500. That'd be good. And let's get. I mean, you make a really good point, Will, about sort of the sense of collective and community in this squad, and this is the moment, right, to sort of build that sense of connection between players and fans. So and there's a lot of goodwill going on at the moment, so let's take advantage of it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, 2,500 would be lovely for that first game of the season. I don't know where Transfermarkt's getting its data from. I think they're just adding 1,000 approximately. I think it was just over 2,200 or something. I think the average was last year. I might be wrong. And yeah, one player I didn't mention from Hartlepool is Jordan Hugel, which that blew my mind that he's playing for Hartlepool. So when Will Harris or Nolan or anyone else that is in their attacking fleet is struggling, they'll just bring on Jordan Hugel, who is, well, I don't know. In my head, still a championship quality striker, but he's probably not anymore. CJ, I'll come to you finally for your thoughts ahead of Hartlepool.
Yeah, I was watching the highlights of their game against Barrow, and I was actually quite shocked. Like, obviously, we all expect high things from Hartlepool with everything that's going on there this year and stuff like that. But the 2 goals they scored were probably 2 worldies outside the box, really. Obviously, Harris scores the first one with an absolute screamer in off the bar, and then Nolan scores with this really cute finish outside the box, barely takes a step onto it and slides it in the bottom corner, and it's like, and both of them are like they were probably preventable. And then obviously Barrow 1-0 down, scored, so and it was disallowed. So like you look at it, it's not that they're an impenetrable fortress. They were there to get at, and I think it was quite an even game. It was just two really good goals that separated it. Across the balance of play, I think it just obviously from the highlights that it could be like a completely dominant show, but from the highlights I saw, it looked like Hartlepool and Barrow were quite toe to toe, and obviously, as you expect, two of probably the top teams in the league. But yeah, I don't think we go into the game with any fear. I think Scott Davis will encourage that, especially at home. Hopefully, like you guys were saying, that the attendance is good. I think any time at the Rec you have a good attendance, the performances need to match it, because there's been so many times in recent years where we've had 2,500+ and then we get battered 4-0, and it's like, oh, like here we go again. And or we'll get a good run going, then we're at home, big attendance because the support's going well, and then we lose, and it's like, and then the support drops for the next few games, and then it comes back, and then the circle continues. So hopefully we can get a bit of momentum at the start of this season, get the supporters on board again. And hopefully it's the return of some supporters as well. I know Tommy Widrington had like people turn back on the club a little bit, and obviously the whole ownership stuff. So it feels different this year. Obviously Dean Wood's been unbelievable in terms of on and off the pitch, with his stuff, and I think it's just a homecoming as such, not just for Scott Davis, but for the club as a whole. And hopefully, with the new kit and everything coming in, and the 100-year anniversary, I think it's the year where the club needs to get back together again. And we kind of mentioned it at the end of the last game, was the way that Scott Davis encourages all his players to go after the game and shake hands and get to know all the supporters a little bit. And hopefully that continues. I think it will, judging by what Slough supporters have said about that. And I think that like there should be a real bond. And I think the nice thing about it all as well is some of these guys are on multiple year contracts now. So we got a couple on like 2-year deals and stuff like that. So this isn't just a short notice thing.